You can do it, baby. I love you so much. And it's bad news. Bad things are happening. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I didn't do it. Permits, and I have to brag just for a second, because when I first heard about AI, it's not my thing. Although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever. He was the longest serving professor in the history of MIT, 3 degrees in nuclear, chemical, and math. That's a smart man. Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know who Kaczynski was? There's very little difference between a madman and a genius. But Kaczynski, I said, what kind of a student was he, Uncle John, Dr. John Trump? He said, what kind of a student? And he said, seriously good. He said he'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him. Didn't work out too well, but it's interesting in life. But I will.
So on Tuesday, the president told a very detailed story about his uncle, noted scientist John Trump, and Theodore Kaczynski, the late Unabomber. He said that Dr. Trump taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was not identified as the Unabomber until 1996, 11 years after John Trump passed away. It would have been impossible for John Trump to have ever discussed the Unabomber with the president. So what was he talking about? And I have one follow-up.
Andrew, with so many issues going on in the world, I'm a little bit surprised you would ask such a question, although I'm not sometimes coming from you, I will say, but I'm willing to give you an answer. Nevertheless, the president's uncle did, in fact, teach at MIT. He was a very intelligent professor. The president's very proud of his family. In fact, the president has a letter from his uncle on the MIT letterhead that sits in the Oval Office dining room. Maybe we'll let you see it sometime. Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Mr. President, most important thing. I'm only signing it because it costs nothing.
Were you trying to tell the Justice Department to grant immunity to Michael Flynn? Certainly. We are Mr. President. Is that your intention, Mr. President, sir?
Thank you, President.
Mr. President, is that your intention, Mr. President? Is that your intention, sir?
As you said last night. Last week, the Pentagon paused some shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Did you approve of that pause?
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. What did you tell me?
I think that's a question for the Pentagon.
Go ahead. Yeah. the first non-incumbent, and remember this, look at this, in either party. Is he crazy, really? Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening. They were interviewing him 2 weeks ago, and they said, what would you advise President Obama? The whole world seems to be exploding and imploding. And he said, it's very simple. He should immediately resign, and they should replace him with President Trump, who kept the world safe. And I'm not just talking the United States.
What is it that should happen to President Obama right now? Well, President Obama should resign. When he doesn't have the prompter, he repeatedly says things like Obama is the president of the United States. That which he accuses Joe Biden of being unable to make sense without a teleprompter, is actually true of Donald Trump.
Why? Because that's a vicious thing. I said, that's Silence of the Lamb. You know what that is? Has anybody seen Silence of the Lambs? Hannibal Lecter, how great an actor was he? You know why I like him? Because he said on television, on one of the, I love Donald Trump, so I love him. I love him. I love him. He said that a long time ago, and once he said that, he was in my camp. I was in his camp. Yeah, I don't care if he was the worst actor. I'd say he was great to me. And my stupid people, when I wanted to refute it, they said, sir, don't dignify it with a rebuttal.
Have you been noticing peculiar behavior recently in someone you know?
Carried out by Ray,
Someone who mixes fiction and reality?
the late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man.
Perhaps someone of advanced age you have known for years.
Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela? It's unbelievable, Venezuela.
Of course, we all have our goofs. But consistently odd behavior can be a sign of frontotemporal dementia, a degenerative disease of the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain that dramatically impairs cognitive function. And there are some key signs to look out for, like slurring words.
The failing New York Times by anonymous, really anonymous.
Struggling to find the correct words is another sign.
The Mueller report, I wish, covered the oranges of the investigation.
You may also notice someone veering into incoherent ideas, detached from reality.
You know what I'd do if there was a shark or you get electrocuted? I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not getting near the shark.
Or an inability to complete simple sentences.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
Other notable symptoms include impaired motor function, such as a wavering limb, and decreased balance, often accompanied by a signature lean or arched stance. If someone you know is demonstrating several or all of these symptoms, they are seriously unwell. As a matter of safety, they must be relieved of critical responsibilities and disqualified from any position of authority. Remember, frontotemporal dementia is a degenerative disease. Cognitive function will never return and will only deteriorate further. Don't ignore the signs.